They also said, not to be forgotten, Thor, except they also gave us a title, Ragnarok. I gotta admit, this is one of the few things Marvel or DC has ever hit me with where I've gone, I'm not really familiar with this. If I'm not mistaken, this is where my knowledge of Ragnarok completely ends. Wasn't he like a duplicate robotic clone of Thor at some point or something like that?
What Ragnarok is Norse mythology. Ragnarok is when the sword, this giant sword which Odin protects, when that is pulled, it is the end of the universe. Right. So,
and that kind of means end of days or something like that.
End of days, yeah. So who wants to pull that more than anyone is Surtur. He's this giant demon creature who's amassing this horde of weird demon creatures to attack Asgard and pull that sword, henceforth causing the end of everything. So that's a big movie. Ragnarok is a gigantic, apocalyptic freak out.
Does it just take place in Asgard?
It would then have ramifications and destroy all the 9 realms. Oh. So it's like, Surtur's a big baddie, and I hope that they bring in Beta Ray Bill. They hinted at him. He was in some chamber in Guardians of the Galaxy, and all those things broke. Yeah. So he's somebody that they introduced in the late 80s, and he basically challenged Thor to fight him and got the hammer, and Odin had to give him like Thor's power. I don't know if they'll go through that whole thing. It's only one movie, so I don't know if they would introduce Beta Ray Bill in this thing that's already pretty packed. If you're introducing Surtur and you have Loki and this entire,
but you can introduce characters without introducing their whole comic backstory.
Correct.
Right? You can just introduce them and say, "Okay, here's Beta Ray Bill," because they have teased Beta Ray Bill once in a while.
He's worth it. He's part of this entire storyline that Walt Simonson wrote and drew in the 80s with Surtur and Ragnarok coming to, ahead. They had covered it in the Stan Lee Kirby's and a whole bunch of later stories, Ragnarok and Surtur, but it really was the most epically done in the 80s. So if you want to check it out in comic land, Walt Simonson's a guy, and it's the 80s run of Thor with Beta Ray Bill.
Mark, they announced as a part of this, and we said it off the top of the show, that we're going to see Tom Hiddleston return. He's going to be Loki. Is this a good thing to bring Loki back for Thor, or is he overdone, or is it, no, you can't do it without him?
No, he's totally not overdone. You need him, especially in a standalone Thor film like this. I mean, when you saw Thor Ragnarok, the first thing that I thought was, because the crowd went nuts, and this is how much Marvel has changed pop culture, is that I was like, oh, I need to know what Ragnarok is now. I need to, somebody get John Schnepp on the phone. I need to know everything about this. And I think that, of course, you need Loki in there in some capacity, because he was such a crucial part of the Dark World. And he was such a great part of the first Avengers film. Now, what he's going to play in the Avengers universe going forward, that's going to be one thing. I don't think he's that necessary to the furthering of that storyline. But actually, Thor has always been the guy who has the easiest time making his own standalone film because, again, he lives in an entirely different place than everybody else. And I think that Loki is such a big part of that place, Asgard, that you're going to need him in some capacity in this movie.
Loki has to come back for this one, and he's crucial because of the way, spoiler for Dark World, but he ends as Odin. Right. He's the king of Asgard, so he's going to be,
or at least he's impersonating Odin. Yeah.
Right. So he's going to be responsible for doing whatever is happening here. Wasn't there a run where he actually does make it happen?
Yes and no. There's a couple different runs, but I think in this Thor version, the cinematic version, he's going to be like, it's good to be the king, and then all of a sudden Surtur's coming, like, how do you be the king if everything's over? Right. So he's going to have to undo all the stuff that he's been doing, like Thor's being some dupe, like Odin has him like doing some menial labor.
Yeah. Because what they've done with what makes Loki such a great character is he's not pure evil, right? Like he's a child in many ways. Yeah. Like Thanos describes him perfectly. You're a pouty child in many ways. Oh, no, he said that about dude in Guardians of the Galaxy, right. Ronan the Accuser. Yeah. But still, when you look at him, he wants this and he wants that. But like in the first Thor film, when it came down to it, he was not going to let anybody hurt his dad. Right. When it came down to it, you are not touching my dad.
And he worked together with Thor in the last one.
And then he works together when he needs to, right? So that would kind of, what you're suggesting is that he's going to be king. Oh, end of days? Okay, Dad? Wake up.
Well, and stop shoveling manure like I've been commanding you as the father. Oh, God, it was me.
The other thing about Hiddleston, though, and Loki, is the fact that this dude is a rock star to fans. Hall H, when he 2 years ago, and then even yesterday when they announced it,
when he comes out, I am Loki of Asgard and I am burdened with glorious purpose, that hall went nuts.
And they went nuts yesterday when they just mentioned his name.
That's right.
So you have to have him back in some capacity.
But you know what? Thor himself becomes a better character when Loki is there. Right. As a matter of fact, keep this in mind. We have not seen Thor in a movie where Loki wasn't there yet. Loki was there in Thor 1. He was there in Avengers 1. He was there in Thor 2. We haven't seen Thor pop up without Loki there. Right. And I think you're right. I don't think we're going to see Loki anymore tied into the Avengers storyline. I think Loki is now on Asgard.
I think what the Hulk did to Loki in the last Avengers film, maybe he's like, I'll take a break from fighting off 61 times. But me and my brother can still have this weird sibling rivalry that's been going on in Asgard forever.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.